הבאים רבותיי, ותזכו לשנים רבות, נעימות וטובות. Welcome to a special edition of our Thursday night class. Be'ezrat Hashem, we are just a few days away from Chag Pesach, Zeman Herutenu. Of course, the highlight of Pesach is Leil HaSeder, and the highlight of Leil HaSeder is the Magid, is the recitation of the Haggadah. It's important that we prepare not only our homes to remove the hametz and prepare the kosher food, but it's incumbent that we prepare ourselves mentally for this great mitzvah. Just like eating matzah is a mitzvah from the Torah, it's also a mitzvah to recite the Haggadah Shel Pesach. And therefore we need to spend some time in our hachanot, in our preparations, to educate ourselves in some of the paragraphs of Haggadah Shel Pesach. Tonight, I'd like to focus on one of the paragraphs, Baruch Shomer Avtachato LiYisrael Baruch Hu. In the chapter we say, blessed be the one that keeps his promise to Israel. Baruch Hu, blessed be he. Borei Olam kept his promise. What was the promise? HaKadosh Baruch Hu Hishev et HaKetz. HaKadosh Baruch Hu calculated the ketz, the ending. La'asot kemo she'amar le'Avraham Avinu. Like he told Avraham Avinu bebrit ben HaBetarim in the covenant. שנאמר ויאמר לאברהם ידוע תדע כי גר יהיה זרעך בארץ תולהם ועבדום ועינו אותם 400 שנה וגם את הגוי אשר יעבודו דן אנוכי ואחרי כן יצאו ברכוש גדול. God had told Avraham Avinu way before we went into the exile that the Jewish people are going to be in a land that does not belong to them, בארץ לא להם, and they're going to be under great servitude. It's going to be torture. And how many years is that going to last? 400 shana. It's going to be a 400-year ordeal. But don't worry. The oppressor, Dan Anochi. God says, I'm going to judge them. And after that, the Jewish people will indeed leave with great wealth. Our question tonight is very simple. A very basic analysis. God told Abraham the exile is going to be 400 years. 400 shana. But we know that it was only 210 years. What happened to the other 190 years? Where did those years go? How was the galut mitigated? How was it that the galut was almost cut in half? There has to be an understanding to this. How could 400 shana turn into 210 years? Interestingly enough, this number 210 was alluded to at the beginning of the Galut. When Borei Olam tells Yaakov Avinu to go down to Egypt, what does he tell him? What language does he use? He tells him and his family, Redu Shama. Redu. The numerical value of Redu is how much? 210. As if Borei Olam is giving Yaakov Avinu a hint. Redu Shama. Go down to Egypt for Redu Shanim. So I'd like to offer some of the well-known interpretations to this answer. And tonight I'd like to offer a novel interpretation as well. Some of the famous interpretations are as follows. The Gemara Megillah says, Kol makom shegalu Yisrael Shechina galta imahem. That whenever the Jewish people go into exile, they're not alone. The holy Shekhinah goes with them. Ve'af kamzot behiyotam be'eres oibehem lo ma'astim ve'lo ge'altim. God says, even when the Jewish people are in the exile, be'eres oibehem lo ma'astim, I did not despise them. God comes with us into the galut. As the pasuk says, Immo anochi besara. God empathizes with us. I feel your pain. As a matter of fact, the first time that Borei Olam appears to Moshe Rabbeinu It's from the thorny bush, the snare. Ask yourself a question. Borei Olam doesn't have a more pleasurable place to appear? Let him appear to Moshe Rabbeinu from a beachfront. Let him appear in the ocean. Why in such an uncomfortable place, a thorn bush? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, because as long as the Jewish people are in Egypt, I'm suffering also. And my Shekhinah, Kiviyachol, is in pain in a thorn bush, in a snare. Once we explain that the Shekhinah is with us into the Galut, we can understand that really the Shekhinah also burdened and shared the burden of the exile. If we were alone, we would have to take the total 400 ourselves. But because Borei Olam was with us, Kiviyachol, he himself took some of the pain off of us. And therefore that 190 years, that was on God's Heshbon. And that's what we say in Haggadah. Baruch Shomer Avtachato Yisrael Baruch Hu. She'akadosh Baruch Hu Hishev et haketz. The word ketz equals how much? Ketz is 190. Kof Tzadi is 190. Those are the years that were taken away from the Galut. Where did those years go? HaKadosh Baruch Hu Hishev et haketz. God himself, by being with us in the exile, he was Mehashev the ketz. He already subtracted from his presence the ketz. Ketz shanim 190 years. That's one interpretation. Another interpretation is as follows. During our stay in Egypt, there was a population explosion. ובני ישראל פרו וישלצו וירבו ויעצמו במאוד מאוד ותמלא הארץ אותם. The Jewish people, the Jewish women were giving birth 6 at a time, sextuplets. And this was a very common practice. Today we don't have that so much, even though we have multiple births. The Zohar HaKadosh says, always before redemption, there's multiple births. And just like before Egypt, there was multiple births and then we were redeemed, so too in our time also, to the help of fertility and different type of procedures, women are having multiple births. We have somebody in the synagogue, she gave birth to quadruplets. 3 boys and 1 girl. Presto in one shot. She gave birth to 3 boys, right away you had zimun. That's it. Havla min evnichem, akala kadisha, b'rshutchem. Instant zimun. So, the explanation is like this. Of course, we were supposed to be in Egypt for 400 years. But since the population was so great, we were able to fulfill 400 years of work in 210 years' time. Which means, if you have 100 people doing a job, it takes a year. But if you have 500 people doing the job, you cut it down. And therefore, because there were so many people doing the work, there was a certain gizera. You have to get this much done. 400 years work. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu did us a favor. By making so many Jews working, so we were able to mitigate it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu hashev et haketz. That's the second interpretation. Easy. The third interpretation is as follows. The Pasuk writes, Vaymareru et hayehem. They embittered our lives. Maror. The work that we did was considered avodat parech. Parech means backbreaking labor. Not only physically, but mentally. The tortures that took place in Mitzrayim were unprecedented. And they lasted not for 3 or 4 years. The avodat parech of it, that lasted for 86 years. Kiminyan, like the gematria of the word Elohim. Elohim is 86, which is the name of God of judgment. We suffered under the severe Elohim, the severe judgment of God's deen, midat ad-din. Lehavdil, even in World War II, the concentration camps and the labor camps was 5 or 6 years. This was 86 years of this. And therefore the Pasuk says it was mirirut, it was an embitterment of a life. So the Mefarshim say that the work was so difficult and so severe and so acute that we were able to do 400 years work in 210 years time. Which means since we worked so hard, so therefore that already was able to subtract from the bottom line. That's why the Gaon of Vilna said, Vaymareru et Hayehem. If you look at the Ta'amim, the Ta'amid Dikra, the notes on the words, these notes were not made up from some conductor of a symphony. The notes of the Torah, Halakha Moshe Sinai. When Borei Olam gave us the Torah, He gave it with the cantillation. And therefore, there's books that explain why every word has the note on it. Why is there a Rabia? Why is there Zakef Katon? Why is there Shofar Mehupach? It's an amazing thing. We think it's just because it's musical. It's got nothing to do with music. A ta'am is not only a note, but ta'am also means a reason. The notes explain the Pesukim. Like there's a pasuk by Yosef HaSadiq when he was thrown into the pit. It says, Ve'habor rek en bo mayim. And the pit was empty, there was no water. So it says, Mayim en bo, there was no water. But nehashim va'akrabim yeshbo. But there were snakes and scorpions there. The Gaon of Vilna asks, where do you see in the pasuk that there were snakes and scorpions? It says, en mayim, ve'habor rek en bo mayim. Where do you see anything about snakes and scorpions? So continue reading the pasuk. Ve'habor rek en bo mayim. The next word is vayeshevu. Now if you split the word vayeshevu, it spells vayeshbo. Oh, so we're getting closer. But where's the snakes? If you look at the note on top of the vayeshevu, it's a zareka. You know what a zareka looks like? A snake. And therefore read it straight. Ve'habor rek en bo mayim vayeshbo nahash. And therefore the ta'amim themselves lend interpretation to the Pesukim. What's the names of the ta'amim on Vaymareru et Hayehem? The Ashkenazim, they call it Kadma ve'Azla. It's like this. Kadma ve'Azla. Vaymareru et Hayehem. That's how we would say it. I don't know how the Ashkenazim would say it, but I'm sure they say it in a different way. Vaymareru et Hayehem. You don't have to say it. Vaymareru et Hayehem. Kadma ve'Azla. What does it mean, Kadma ve'Azla? Kadma is they proceeded and they went. Kadam, Lashon Kodem. They proceeded and they went. Says the government, Vilna, perfect. Why did the Jewish people proceed and go out early? Why did they get 190 years reprieve? Because since the work was so bitter, since it was so difficult, hence Kadma ve'Azla. So it complements each other. So somebody asked, they said, oh, Rabbi, that's good. But already if you're going so deep into the ta'amim, where does it hint in the pasuk that the reprieval was 190 years? So here I saw a chidush from the Apter Rav, the Baal Ohev Yisrael, who incidentally I had the zechut to be by his kever exactly a week ago. When I was in the Ukraine, he's buried 2 feet away from the Baal Shem Tov. And then we were able to go to the synagogue that they're rebuilding, that the Ohev Yisrael used to pray. In the holy city of Mezhibush, the city of great tzaddikim. Anyway, I always wondered, why are all the tzaddikim in these far remote places over here, in the freezing cold Ukraine? We have to find maybe a tzaddik buried in Fort Lauderdale somewhere or something like that. I understand why they found these places so far off the beaten track. Maybe the pshat is you can't become a tzaddik in Fort Lauderdale. Maybe it's pshat you have to be in these remote places. But we're still looking for some. Anyway, the Apter Rav says something very good. He says, what's the numerical value of the word kadma? Kadma, kof, dalid, mem, aleph. Let's figure it out. Kof is 100, dalid is 4, mem, aleph is 41. That's 145. Ve'azla, vav, aleph. Vav, aleph is 7. Zayin is another 7, is 14. Lamed is 14 and 30 is 44, and the Aleph is 45. 145 and 45 is 190. So Kadma ve'Azla equals 190. So we say, why did the Jewish people, Kadma ve'Azla, why did they get the Zikut to leave 190 years early? Because vaymareru et chayehem. So it's perfect. It's a kaftor v'ferach. It's perfect and meduyak in the pasuk. With this, we explain something else, which many people are not aware of this, even though they've been doing it for so many years. On the night of the Pesach, what do we do to commemorate the bitterness? We eat maror. Maror zeh. Our custom, the Sephardim, we eat romaine lettuce or endives. It has a little bitterness to it. Ashkenazim, they eat the horseradish. Oh, that's the real maror. Just looking at the maror, just thinking about the horseradish, already you have the merirut. But either way, you're yotzeh. But everybody has the same custom of what? We dip the maror into the haroset. Again, here we have machlokot in the minhagim for the recipes of how to make the haroset. Each one follows his minhag. I told him a story the other night. There was a wealthy man. He had a servant, Ashkenazi. His name was Baruch Hirsch. He told the servant Baruch Hirsch on Erev Pesach, go to the store, buy for me egozim and tapuchim. Buy for me walnuts and apples for the haroset. So Baruch Hirsch went to the store, but he delayed. He didn't come back to his master till a few hours before Pesach. So the master got angry. Where were you? I sent you early in the morning for the egozim tapuchim. You show up now, the last minute of what kind of business? Where were you? He lost his cool, and the master started to get angry. Finally, he couldn't control anymore, so he turns to his servant Baruch Hirsch. He tells him, "You behemah." Oh, he calls him a behemah. So Baruch Hirsch, he calls him behemah. He turns to him. He says, "Ata." Oh, he says, you are one. Now the master realized what he did. He made a mistake. What did he call him a behemah? 2 hours before Pesach. Now the whole Pesach they're going to be in mahloket. So he has to figure out a way to get out of it. So he tells Baruch Hirsch, "What did you think I meant when I said behemah? Behemah's rashi tevot. Baruch Hirsch ma heveta." He says, "I know. I answered you. Ata egozim tapuchim heveti." So you see over here, we have a custom to dip the maror into the haroset. Question is, make up your mind. Are you trying to commemorate the maror or the sweetness? The haroset is sweet. Why would you dilute the bitterness in dipping it into sweet haroset? Even though the halakha says you're supposed to shake it off a little, but still there's mitikut. So it comes out that you're really not eating something that's bitter, you're eating something that's indeed bittersweet. Why? Based on what I'm telling you tonight, we understand. Because in the maror, there was a sweetness, there was a silver lining. And what was the silver lining? That we got out 190 years early. Because we worked so hard, so we were able to take off almost half the sentence. So it was very bitter, but there's a haroset in the maror. There's a sweetness in the maror. And it's like if you tell the children, winter vacation starts January 20th. But if you could take all your finals and finish the work by January 15th, you get an extra 5 days off. So they work the whole December, they're staying up all night, they're studying and they're reviewing, and they have a very difficult month. It's maror. But when January 15th comes, they take the last final, they get extra 5 days. So the maror was worth it. The maror gives them an extra week of the vacation. Similarly over here, in the maror there's haroset. And I want to tell you something. That's life. In every maror that a Kadosh Baruch Hu gives a person, you have to know there's always a haroset over there. In every difficult time, in every challenge, in every hardship, in every yisurin barmanan that a person has to go through, he has to know that in the mirirut, the Kadosh Baruch Hu always has a reason, and it's l'tovah, and it's for the good. Sometimes you cannot taste the haroset, but you have to know the haroset is always there. That's a paradigm of life. Maror and haroset always go together. That's what the halakha, according to some of the poskim, they say, if a person did not dip the maror into the haroset, lo yatsa. Ad kedei kach it's ma'akev. Hashkafically we understand it. But if a person doesn't understand that in the maror there's haroset, lo yatsa. You didn't fulfill your obligation in emunah. The emunah is to teach us that both of these things are combined. You cannot separate. Borei Olam knows what he's doing. With this we explained another hadush as well. In the Haggadah we say, Rabban Gamliel haya omer. Rabban Gamliel used to say, Kol mi shelo amar shlosha dvarim elu b'Pesach. Whoever did not say these 3 things in the Pesach, לא יצא ידי חובתו. He did not fulfill his obligation. ואלו הן פסח, מסע ומרור. These are the three things. Ask yourself a question. Rabbi Gamliel, Pesach, that's freedom. That's when God passed over our homes and we were freed. Masa is freedom. When we left Egypt, we had the Masa on our shoulders. Maror is slavery. Rabbi Gamliel, it's out of order. Pesach, Masa, he should have said Maror, Pesach, Masa. First, we had slavery, and then we had freedom. And don't tell me that he's giving it to you in alphabetical order, because it's not written in alphabetical order. The Pesach is Peh, Mem is Matzah, comes first. So what order did Rabbi Gamliel take over here? Why does he start freedom, freedom, slavery? But based on what I'm telling you, even the Maror is freedom. Because of the Mirirut, we got out early. On the contrary, the Mirirut saved us 190 years. It was able to chip off almost half of it. Cheshevet HaKetz, 190 years. And therefore he says, Pesach, Masah, Maror, freedom, freedom, freedom. That's the interpretations that we are familiar with. There are other interpretations as well. Some want to say that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Avraham Abinu about the 400 years, that was before they were circumcised. But after the Jewish people circumcised themselves, a circumcision is considered a form of death. The pasuk says, "Ki alecha horagnu kol hayom." God, we sacrificed ourselves for you every day. How do we sacrifice our lives for God? Hakamim says, talking about Brit Milah. So therefore, once already we sacrificed ourselves for Brit Milah, after the Brit Milah, we're a different creation. It's like a new B'riyah. So therefore, who was told to have a 400 years? That's the Jewish people before the Brit Milah. But after the Brit Milah, it's already a different hashbon. Another way of calculating it. But tonight I want to say a different shot. The Achamim tell us, on the night of Pesach, it's not enough for us to analyze and get excited about the Exodus, about the redemption. Of course, you see at Mitzrayim, we're thrilled. You have to understand to the level where you feel you yourself were in Mitzrayim and you came out. But you also have to ponder on the night of Pesach, what got us into the exile? Everybody's always thinking, we got out, hey, but we got in. How did we get into this galut? How did the exile start? That's also one of the important lessons. Because you must always learn history, because history repeats itself. And if we have to know the underpinnings, what's the underlying causes, what's the roots of a galut? So if we go back in the Torah, you'll see the galut doesn't start in Egypt. It doesn't start in Parashat Shemot. The galut starts in Parashat Vayeshev. In that episode of Yosef as-Sadiq and the brothers. No matter how you're going to learn it, there was acrimony. There was a fight. There was a division between the Ahei Yosef and Yosef, the Shevatim and Yosef. Again, we don't come here tonight to Chas v'Shalom speak to berate the Shevatim, Shiftei Yah. And of course, these are great tzaddikim that are beyond us for even to comment. But the Torah clearly says, "Vayisneu oto." They hated him, whatever that means. But it doesn't mean they loved him. The pasuk says, Yosef tattled on the brothers. Vayaveh Yosef et dibatam ra'ah. There was something going on over here. And we cannot whitewash the pasukim when it says that the brothers took Yosef, stripped him from his ketonet pasim, doused it in blood, gave it to their father and said, Tarof Toraf Yosef, that Yosef was devoured by a wild animal, and they sold him down to Egypt. That's the facts. That's where Galut begins. Our first experience with Mitzrayim, the Yosef Hurad Mitzrayim, and Yosef went down to Mitzrayim. That's where it begins, from Mahloket. When there's fighting from within, when there's Mahloket, when already there's fragmentation, when there's factionalism, when already in the Jewish family there's arguments and there's a split, that already causes galut. That's where it started. It's no coincidence. We went down to Egypt as a result of a family feud. We went down as a result of a fight. And you have to know that. That's what causes galut. Because any time there's going to be a mahloket somewhere, anytime somebody should be involved in some type of strife, you must know that not long after there's exile. Not long after that bar minan, there's a consequence. There's a collateral damage. Nothing good can come out of mahloket. Nothing good can come out of a fight. I once heard a nice dirash. You remember the story when Yaakov Abinu was lying down on the rocks, on the 12 rocks? So it says, the rocks started to fight with each other. I want Yaakov to lie on me. Allah yaniyah tzadik et rosho. Allah yaniyah tzadik et rosho. So the rocks were fighting, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a miracle, and from the Avanim it became an even. They became one rock, so Yaakov put his head on the rock. Ask the Baalei Musar, already you're making a miracle. So why don't you turn it into a pillow? Who wants to sleep on a rock? Make it a nice, comfortable, goose down pillow. And you know what they answer? From a mahloket, you don't get a pillow. The rocks were fighting. From a fight, you don't get a pillow. It stays a rock. You never can get beracha from a mahloket. Rav Chaim Palachi told his students, on the place where you see two people had a fight, don't walk over that spot. There's tumah on that spot. Cross the street. The place itself has a poison in it. Therefore, we have to be from the Ohavei Shalom Ve'Rodfei Shalom. Not because we want to be diplomatic, not only because we want to be pacifists. Because, Chas v'Shalom, there's a price, there's always a price to pay in mahloket, even the side that's right. It takes two to tango. Once already there's... and the Gemara says, so severe is the mahloket that it even goes after children. Normally, children are exempt from the law. Ketanim. Where do we learn that from? The story of Korah. When God swallowed Korah on the ground, it was Korah v'chol adato and Tapav, his kids. And therefore you see how dangerous this is. And that's what the Galut was. The Galut started because of this episode. The Ben Ish Chai says something beautiful. The Ben Yosef Chaim in Baghdad writes, if that's the root of the exile, it has to be alluded to somewhere in the Seder. I mean, we're commemorating everything. We have Matzot, we have Haroset to commemorate the Tar. We have Maror. Where in the Seder do we commemorate the brothers that are selling Yosef? That's pivotal, that's key. Do you know what he says? If you look on the Pasuk, in Vayeshev, Ketonet Pasim. I have it right here. I'm going to read it to you. Vayeshev. Ve'asa lo Ketonet Pasim. Look at Rashi. Rashi says, Lashon Kli Milat. Ketonet Pasim is like a garment. Kli milat, like a linen garment, with stripes. Pasim is stripes. Kemo karpas utchelet. Oh. Rashi talks about karpas. Now I know when you think the word karpas, right away celery comes to your mind. But he's not talking about celery. Karpas over here is a combination of two words. Kar is a garment of linen. Pas is stripes. Says Rav Ben Ish Chai, when we take the karpas and we dip it into the salt water, that's a dramatization of the dipping of the ketonet pasim into the blood. You can't dip it into the blood. So we dip it into the salt water, which is the tears, which is the crying of Yosef. Which means in the beginning of the Seder, you're coming along and to explain to the people at the Seder, this is why it happened, because of the ketonet pasim. Because the brothers couldn't see eye to eye with Yosef. The Galut begins over there. And until Klal Yisrael were able to rectify that sin, it took them 210 years, by the way. But at the end of 210 years, it says, they were united. I agree. Maybe they were on the 49th level of Tum'ah, that's something else. But as a nation, there was ahdut. There was a unity. God says there's a unity. There's a peace. You go. You're free. And we were free for many years. Until the destruction of the second temple, where we got a relapse. We fell back into that original sin of Sinat Hinam. Again, baseless hatred, which was always our weakness as a nation, it came back to haunt us. This time we paid the price of the destruction of the temple and we were thrown into an exile. Incidentally, an exile that we're still in. In Egypt, we were able to fix our sin in 210 years. Now we're pushing close to 2,000 years of exile, and we still are not able to rectify the sin of Sinat Hinam. It's almost 10 times longer than the original Galut. That's why our tradition tells us a phenomenon on the Jewish calendar. Always the first night of Pesach is the same night on the calendar as Tisha B'Av. How do you remember that? Al Matzot Umrorim. The same night that you have Matzot is the same night of Mirorim. Mirorim is Tisha B'Av, is the night of Maror. Al Matzot Umrorim. They're linked. But there's another way Hazal tell us to remember it. The first letter of the alphabet is Aleph. The last letter is Taf. At. Aleph of Pesach. The first day of Pesach is Taf, is Tisha B'Av. What day is the first day of Pesach this year? Tuesday. Monday night. That means this summer, B'ezrat Hashem, it shouldn't happen. We should be redeemed by then. But if we're not, Tisha B'Av is going to be on a Monday night. At. The rabbis give us a whole remez. At. Bash. Gar. Dak. Hatz. Raf. You have a minute so I can tell it to you? I'll translate. Did I never translate anything? At Bash. Aleph Taf. The first day of Pesach, Tisha B'Av. Bash. The second day of Pesach. What's the second day of Pesach? Wednesday. Bash. Shin. Shavuot. Shavuot's on a Wednesday this year. All you have to remember is the 7 days of Pesach, and you know the whole calendar. You don't have to walk around, when is this, when is that, when is that. Just learn Pesach. Once you know Pesach, you got everything. At Bash Gar. Gimel Resh. The third day of Pesach is what? Thursday. Resh. Resh is Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah this year is on a Thursday. At Bash Gar Dak. Dalid is the fourth day. The fourth day is on a Friday. Kof is Kriyat Torah. That's Simchat Torah. The fourth day, Simchat Torah is on a Friday. Hatz. Hatz is the fifth day, which is Shabbat, which is Tzadi is Som. Som is Kippur. Kippur is on a Shabbat this year. Vav is the sixth day. Vav is the sixth day. Sixth day is Sunday. The Peh is Purim of last year. That's tricky now. Purim goes backwards. You're laughing. The other day in the synagogue we spoke for an hour to explain why the sixth day of Pesach is Purim backwards. Why everything is forwards and Purim is backwards. There's a reason. There's a beautiful reason. I cannot say it tonight, but there's a whole shot. And incidentally, you should know that always, whatever day Purim is, that's like Ba'omer. Nesi Manach, how you can remember that? Pelag. 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 Purim is always Lag. So this year Purim is Sunday, and Lag Ba'omer is also going to be on a Sunday. And there's a reason for that also. There's obviously a connection between Purim and Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. That's what the Hazal tell us. They only give us the 6 days. So somebody last night when I was giving the student said, and the 7th day is on a what? The 7th day of Pesach this year is on a Monday. It's the 7th day of Pesach, Yom HaAtzmaut, he said. Okay. I'm not responsible for each guy's derash. I'm sure there was no Yom HaAtzmaut in the times of Hazal, that's for sure. But really the 7th night, or the 7th day of Pesach, incidentally, is always Tu B'Av, the 15th of Av. Monday this year is Tu B'Av. Why is it like that? Just as a tidbit, Because what happened on the 7th day of Pesach? It's Kriyat Yam Suf. What is Tu B'Av? That's the day where the Jewish girls and boys used to frolic in the fields and they used to get married. It was a day of marriage. And what does the Gemara say? That getting married is like Kriyat Yam Suf. And therefore it's befitting that on the day of the Kriyat Yam Suf should be the same day linked spiritually to Tu B'Av. Anyway, our question is, at the first night of Pesach is Tisha B'Av. This is not just a phenomenon on the Jewish calendar. Obviously, Borei Olam in His infinite wisdom spiritually linked these 2 days. That's why some have a custom on their Pesach to eat an egg. Why? An egg is something that the mourners eat. It's the food of Avelin. So we're reminding ourselves on the night of Pesach that this is also the night of Avelut. We're already reminding ourselves that there's a day to Tisha B'Av as well. But why? Why spoil the night? Such a beautiful night. What do you have to even think of Tisha B'Av for? And the explanation is, we're telling everybody at the Seder, learn the lesson of Monday night, Leil Seder. The reason why this happened is because of Sinat Chinam. The reason why we had an exile is because brothers could not see eye to eye. And if you don't learn the lesson of this Monday night, there's going to be another Monday night in a few months in the summer that you're going to have to sit on the floor and read Echa. And if Bar Minan Tisha B'Av rolls around this summer on a Monday night, that means you didn't learn the lesson of the Monday night of Pesach. They're linked. The Tikkun of Tisha B'Av is the Leil Seder. Oh, if this is true what we're saying, where do we see that the Jewish people were united? Where do we see the tikkun? You're saying after 210 years God said, that's it. What they did to Yosef, it's over. Now it's time for Geulah. Where do you see it? So it's an amazing midrash. Midrash says, Borei Olam tells Moshe, go to Paro and to the Egyptians and tell them you want to borrow their clothes. V'yish'alu ish me'et re'ehu v'isha me'et shechinta kele kesef u'kle zahav u'smalot. We're going to borrow. What do you want to borrow our stuff for? We have a 3-day seminar. We're going in the Midbar for a 3-day little carnival, and then we're coming back. For some reason, the Egyptians fell for it. And they gave us their gold and their silver, and they gave us all their wares for this party. Thinking, naively, that in 3 days we're going to come back and give them back all their goods. But we knew, Borei Olam told us secretly, you're not coming back. Take all your stuff, we're getting out of here. This is the Geulah. We're going to Eretz Israel. It's over. Now this is 3 million people. They have a secret. They know that this is a ruse. It's a scheme. All it would have taken is one Jewish informer, one Moser, or in the vernacular, one rat, to go to Paro and say, my dear king, it's not 3 days. When Moshe Rabbeinu was telling us 3 days, he was winking his eye. It's forever. You're never getting back any of this stuff. Now, in 3 million people, you got to figure there's going to be one person that doesn't know how to keep a secret. Somebody that's looking to find favor in the eyes of the government. One that's trying to advance himself, maybe to get a reward, maybe to exonerate himself from a punishment that he has. Go figure out the psychology of an informant. And out of 3 million people, you know what it says in the Midrash? Nobody went. They were able to keep a secret, and that's where you see the unity of Klal Yisrael. That they kept the secret internally, and they did not incriminate each other by going to the foreign government. You hear what's going on? That's a phenomenal level of loyalty to one another. When Borei Olam saw that, it's time to go. Whereas in the previous generation, the brothers were tattling on each other. Here already the tikkun was made. There's a Hazal that says like this: Hayam ra'a vayanos. It says the Yam saw something, and when it saw this, vayanos, it split. Different things it saw. One midrash says Hayam ra'a arono shel Yosef. There's another midrash, very interesting. Nobody knows how to explain it. I saw a beautiful interpretation. It says Hayam ra'a. What did they see? What did the Yam see? Braita de Rabbi Yishmael. So Braita. The Yam saw Braita. And when it saw the Braita of Rabbi Yishmael, it split. What does it mean? What is the Braita of Rabbi Yishmael anyway? Some of you, if you look in your Sidurim, before Baruch She'amar, some of the publishers put like 20 pages over there. I don't know why they put them there because nobody says it. But in the olden days, in the time of the Beit HaMikdash, they used to say these 20 pages. It has Korbanot, it has Akedat Yitzchak, Anna Bechawah. To get your money's worth, so they gave you Zech and the Korban. They put these 20 pages in. I'm saying that as a joke. Of course, you have to pray the whole Siddur. You start from page 1, you don't start from page 43. So in that section of the Tefillah, right before Kaddish, there's a Braita, a passage of Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Yishmael says, B'shlosh esre midot haTorah nidreshet. There are 13 ways to study the Torah. 13 formulas that we use to study the Torah. What's the first one? Kal v'chomer. You know what a kal v'chomer is? If this guy who's weak can carry 50 pounds, this guy that's strong, kal v'chomer, he can carry 50 pounds. If the weak guy can carry 50, the strong guy kal v'chomer. We use that type of thinking in learning. If the halakha is over here by this, which is weak, certainly by the halakha, that's kal v'chomer. You know what a kal v'chomer is, yes? So it says the Braita of Rabbi Yishmael, the Yam Ra'a Braita of Rabbi Yishmael. It's sort of kal v'chomer. What do you mean? Later on in history, another body of water split. This time it split for Yehoshua ben Nun, the student of Moshe, when he was crossing the Jordan. The Jordan also split, and Bnei Yisrael were able to cross safely. So the Yam made a kal v'chomer. If the Jordan is going to split for the student of Moshe, kal v'chomer, we have to split for the rabbi. So Hayam Ra'a, Mara'a, Braita Rabbi Yishmael. And that's where the pasuk is very good. Hayam Ra'a Bayanos. What did it see? Hayarden Yisov Le'achor. The Yarden, it saw the Yarden Yisov is future. It saw that the Yarden Yisov. If the Yarden is Yisov, so then we have to split as well. That's Kal v'chomer. But there's another Hazal. Hazal say, Hayam Ra'a et harichush. They saw the loot. They saw the money. That night when we came out of Eretz Mitzrayim, every Jew became an instant millionaire. Me'ashpot yarim ebyon. Le'hoshiv im nedibim im nedibei amo. That night, everybody became a millionaire. God fulfilled to us, V'harechin yitzu b'rchush gadol. We came out with the great wealth. Even though, by the way, I want to tell you something. That's not what HaKadosh Baruch Hu meant when he said Rechush Gadol. He promised Abraham, B'harechin yitzu b'rchush gadol. Can I ask you a simple question? What is Rechush Gadol? What is great wealth? So right away your first reaction is going to be to give me a number. Great wealth, $10 million. And somebody will say, nah, wait, $10 million. What's $10 million? $100 million. Another guy will say, what are you talking about? You can't really answer me what is great wealth, because that answer is relative to who's doing the talking. If I'm talking to Bill Gates, Lavdil, and Bill Gates says, this guy over here, he has a lot of wealth. Now Bill Gates is worth $50 billion. So for him to get excited and say great wealth, he's got to be talking 40, 45 billion. Otherwise he doesn't get excited. To Bill Gates, a person has $1 million, a miskeen. He's on welfare. But if you talk to a poor person who doesn't have food to eat, and he says, "Why, you see this guy over here? What a job he has. He works from 6 in the morning to 11 o'clock at night, and they give him $20 a day. Wow, rich man." Because to the poor guy, that's rich. $20 a day is rich. It's all relative wealth. Depends who's talking. HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes to Abraham. V'aharechen yitz'u birchush gadol. Who's talking? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is richer than Bill Gates, by the way. So, how much money are you talking for HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he gets excited, that he says, "Wow, they're going to leave with great, good money, good money." What's good money to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? He owns China. He owns all the continents. He owns all the rivers and all the oceans and all the mountains. The whole world belongs to God. All of the world is God's acquisition. So what does Borei mean? Rechush gadol. Nothing is rechush gadol. Everything is pennies to HaKadosh Baruch Hu because he owns everything. Look who's talking. You know what the real shot is? It wasn't talking about the money. Borei Olam is referring to the Torah. The rechush gadol is the Torah. That's an asset. Even HaKadosh Baruch Hu gets excited when it comes to the Torah. You're going to leave Mitzrayim and you're going to get the greatest asset, the book that I used as a blueprint to create the whole world, the book that has all the secrets of the creation from the beginning to the end, the holiest entity on the planet, a book that was already written 974 generations before B'riyat Ha'olam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even HaKadosh Baruch Hu gets excited when it comes to the Torah. He says, yes, this is Rechush Gadol, because that's spiritual. This is eternity. This is Olam Haba. But there's some people when they read the Pesukim, they don't use their thumbs when they read the Pesukim. They read the Pesukim with their eyes. It says Rechush Gadol. Rechush Gadol is money. Don't give me Bill Gates and this whole Hadush over here. I want the money. Rechush Gadol is the money over here. Now all of a sudden you start using thumbs. It's okay, so Borei Olam is very generous. You know what? For the people that are the Pashtanim, for the people that like to read the Pshat, okay, Rechush Gadol, God's rich. Give them the money also. So it says, Hayam Ra'ah, what did it see? It saw the money. It saw the money, it's split. What's the Pshat now? Since when is money a sigula for a seed to split? You know what the Pshat is? The Yam saw, look, the Egyptians gave the Jewish people the money. That means they really think that it's a 3-day excursion. That means nobody spilled the beans. Nobody revealed the secret. If the Jewish people have all this money, that means they were able to be tight-lipped. In that zechut, the tikkun is made. Hayam ra'ah. And that's why, incidentally, it also says Hayam ra'at aronos shel Yosef at the same time. Because aronos shel Yosef reminds the Yam of the Avon. And the Rechush reminds the Yam of the Tikkun of the Avon. And therefore, Bnei Yisrael halechu b'yabasha b'toch hayam. Now watch this. The Arizal writes, if somebody, Has v'shalom, is a talebearer, speaks Lashon Hara, an informant, a gossip mongerer, that Arizal says that that person comes back as a gilgul, as a dog. As if to say, you want to bark? Now you can bark all you want. You want to make noise, you want to get people in trouble? Good, now you can bark all day long. The one that barks as a human being comes back to bark as a dog, as a kelev. What does it say when the Jewish people left Egypt? Ulchol b'nei Yisrael lo yehiratz kelev leshono. When the Jewish people left Egypt, not one dog barked, which is not normal. When there's throngs of people walking and there's dogs, they get nervous, they start screaming, they don't bark. At that moment, no dogs barked. God was giving a signal to Klal Yisrael. You made your tikkun. You didn't bark on each other. You didn't reveal the secrets of each other. Hence, you even were able to affect the creation that the dogs by nature that normally bark, they also were fixed on that night as well. Now, if this is true what I'm telling you, just to go back to our original question, the unity is able to take away the judgment. How? If I'm united and we're all together, so when I'm working, I have pain because I'm working. I have tsa'ar. But I also feel your tsa'ar. So my work is really 1.5. It's mine and I feel yours. You're working also. You feel yours, you feel half of mine. So basically what happened was each one was feeling his pain and somebody else's, so each one is working 1.5 times. So therefore the camaraderie was able to subtract 190 years. As simple as born. But watch this now. I want to tell you what the scholar and the Rebbe said. He said like this. When you get to the next paragraph, after it tells us that we got out 190 years early, the next paragraph says, V'isha'amda lavotenu. Everybody loves the V'isha'amda. We lift up the cups, we cover the matzah, V'isha'amda. Highlight. And what do we say over there in the V'isha'amda? Shebichol dor vador. Omdim alenu nechalotenu. In every single generation, there's somebody out there that's set on destroying us, to destroy us. Now, the conventional pshat in the V'isha'amda is, who's the Bechol Dor Vador Omdim Alenu? That's the Hamans, that's the Par'os, that's the Hitlers, that ilk of anti-Semites that all had their version of the final solution. So we say it's not a new thing. Anti-Semitism is as old as there's Jews. As long as there's Jews, there's going to be somebody who hates Jews. But miraculously, every generation, HaKadosh Baruch Hu saves us. That's the simple pshat. Says the scholar and the Rebbe. I have the Sefer, I can read it inside to you. Hear what he says. He writes like this. V'sha'amda. אין אנחנו מגדירים מי הם אלו העומדים עלינו לכלותנו. Who are these עומדים עלינו? How come we don't give names? We say it generically. בכל דור ודור עומדים עלינו. Who are these עומדים עלינו לכלותנו? אלא אומרים בדרך כללי. We say it in a general way. שבכל דור ודור עומדים עלינו. ונראה שכאן יש תפילה על המוסרים והמשומדים שבכל דור ודור. The scholar and the Rebbe learns, you know who the enemies we're talking about over here? Are the enemies that are within. It's talking about the anti-Semitic Jews. It's talking about the ones that are amongst us. Not the anti-Semite from without, from far. אשר עליהם נתקנה ברכת המינים בתפילה. Don't we have a special ברכת לעמידה? למינים ולמלשינים אל תתקווה? Where we're praying not for the enemies on the outside, we're praying for the internal enemies. So he writes, ובאמת אין לנו דרך להינצל מהמוסרים המעורבים בקרבנו. There's no way we can really get saved from the internal. From the external enemy, we know who he is. We see him. We have a way to protect ourselves. But our guard is down when it comes to the enemy that's within us. Nobody thinks that a self-hating Jew could come along and do damage to his brother. That already, it blindsides us. And therefore he says, Ela Kadosh Baruch Hu matzilenu miyadam. We only can rely on the good graces of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to save us. Now we understand the connection between the two paragraphs. First we say, Baruch Shomer Avtachato Yisrael, Shakadosh Baruch Hu Hishev et HaKetz. God took us out early because there was unity. We went down to Egypt because of Mahloket. And once we rectified it, and where do you see we rectified it? Because 3 million people kept a secret. There were no Mosrim. And because there was no Mesirah in Klal Yisrael, there was a redemption. And then we come along and say, but unfortunately this plagues us in every generation. Bechol dor vador, we have a repetition of this. Omdim alenu lechalotenu, from within. And then, you know what the next paragraph is? The next paragraph is a proof. To show you the extent of what the internal enemy can do. Ulmad. Go out and learn a lesson. Ma bikesh Lavan Arami la'asot liYaakov Abinu. What did Yaakov try to do to Lavan? What did Lavan try to do to Yaakov? Lavan was his father-in-law. That's not an outsider. Yaakov was married to Lavan's daughters. That's an internal affair. Now, it's one thing a father-in-law to a son-in-law. We hear stories what they're capable of doing. But that he should want to kill his own daughters. Lavan bikesh la'akor et hakol. Lavan wanted to go after his own grandchildren. That's the ra'aya. Omdim alenu lechalotenu mibifnim. And you know what the proof is? Look, from the beginning of time, the biggest enemy to Yaakov was somebody that was living in the same house with him. He was living under the same roof. Who would believe it? You're looking for the enemy from over there. Lavan was right under his nose. And that's unfortunately what we're going through till today. And that's why the Galut is lasting so long. Unfortunately, the story of Mesirut is still amongst us. Where Jews still have the ability to go and be moser on one another. For whatever reasons, for whatever benefits they get. Unfortunately, it's common where Jews could take each other to secular courts. This is a form of Mesirah, where they can go litigate Jews against a Jew in a secular court in front of Goyim in order to expose all our dirty laundry, all our private secrets to the Goyim, to the newspapers, to the jury. Halul Hashem. Besides the fact that it's a slap in the face to our system of Beit Din, but to go to a secular court, one Jew to the other, Bechol dor vador, unfortunately, this is our weakness in every single generation. Omdim alenu lechalotenu. And let me tell you something. The enemy within, it's much more painful. When it comes externally, so you almost expect it. Halakha, Esav sonet Yaakov. You're almost ready for that. But when it comes from your brother, when it comes from your neighbor, when it comes from one of your own, the pain is that much more. It's the story with the blacksmith and the goldsmith. The blacksmith was in his shop, and he has in his hand his iron hammer. And he's banging on the anvil. He's banging on the anvil. And as he bangs, the anvil lets out a big noise. Boom, boom, boom. The goldsmith next door also has an iron hammer. But he's banging on the gold. And as he bangs on the gold, it's a very dull sound. So the gold tells the anvil, I don't understand. Why when you get hit, you make such a loud scream? When I get hit, I hold it in, I don't make such a loud noise. So the anvil tells the gold, your gold, you're getting hit by an iron hammer. That's not related to you. So when you get hit by an outsider, it doesn't hurt you that much. I'm an iron anvil. I'm getting hit by my brother, the iron hammer. When the iron hammer hits the iron anvil, when the brother hits the brother, it hurts me much more, and therefore I cry much louder. And that's what the Haggadah's teaching us. And that's what we have to remind our families on the night of the Seder. Yes, of course we left Egypt. Why did we leave Egypt? And why did we go down to Egypt? Karpas, it all started with the Ketonet Pasim. And once we rectified it, that no Jewish person, every person understood their loyalty and their obligations to one another. They were not megaleh sod. They did not reveal secrets. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, it's time to go. Hayam ra'ah beyanos, hayam ra'ah it rechush. It saw the wealth. But then unfortunately years later, we went back to the old Sanat Hanam, back to Tisha B'Av, because we didn't learn the lesson of Monday night Pesach. We got Monday night of Tisha B'Av, Al Matzot Umrorim. They're linked, At Bash Gardak. And that's what we have to impress upon our children, the peace and the unity and the shalom. I agree. Where do we begin with shalom? None of you are going to broker a deal in the Middle East. We understand that. It doesn't start with that. Certainly none of us are capable to bring the Democrats and the Republicans together as well. In these days, that might even be more difficult than the Middle East. The shalom begins in our homes. The shalom begins in the shalom bayit. With the couples, with the marriages. Paro knew what it means, shalom bayit. You know what Rabbi Eli says? Paro says, take all the baby boys, drown them. That I expect from Paro. But the next part of the pasuk is shocking. V'chol habat tehayun. Keep the girls alive. Hey Paro, it's the same price. Kill the girls also. What's Paro so interested in keeping the girls alive? You know what the Ben Ishai says? Because he wanted to make a disproportionate amount of women to men. So now each Jewish man would have to marry more than one wife. And if he's going to have to marry more than one wife, there's going to be rivalry amongst the wives. And there's going to be shalom bayit problems. There's going to be, so he went after the domestic tranquility of Klal Yisrael. That was his plan, to break the shalom. He said, once already there's no shalom bayit, God's not going to redeem them. Shalom begins, children to their parents. Shalom begins with neighbors living next to each other. Shalom begins with friends in the shiur. Shalom begins with the congregants in the synagogue. Shalom begins with us. And then, Be'ezat Hashem, if we can make this tikkun, it's in the days. If it happened already once in Nisan, this tikkun, there's a good chance it can happen again during Nisan. B'Nisan negalu, b'Nisan atidim legael. But it's not an automatic. It's not just something that happens by chance or by itself. It needs work. And the work is dependent on learning the lesson of Leil Pesach. Yiratzon, Kadosh Baruch Hu should give us the ability to impart these messages to our children and our family. And Be'ezat Hashem, we should be from the Talmidav Shel Aharon HaKohen, Ohavei Shalom Ve'rodfei Shalom, Ohavei HaBeriyot U'Mekareban LaTorah, and then will be fulfilled on us, Ki me'esetecha me'eretz Mitzrayim, Ar'enu niflaot, Amen ve'amen. Rabotai, we collect for the Shamos.